Welcome to the Busy Latter-day Saint, where righteous desires and living life come together. Here, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints discuss their challenges and successes in studying the Scriptures. I'm your host, Richard Bernard. The music for this program is by Marvin Goldstein and used with his permission. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I encourage you to comment on this episode or the podcast in general. To leave a comment, click on the link in the show notes. Because I'm not posting a weekly episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast to be informed when a new episode has been posted. You subscribe by tapping on the subscribe or follow button. Each podcast app is different, so if you don't see the follow or subscribe button, a simple Google search will show you how. If you enjoy this podcast and have benefited from it, I encourage you to start donating a few dollars to the General Missionary Fund each month. Today, we hear from Marvin Goldstein, whose music opens and closes each podcast. Marvin is well known for his many recordings and the many fundraisers for missionaries and his devotionals. When performing, his very soul is revealed and touches the hearts of those listening. The Spirit fills the room and testimonies are confirmed. The musician is well known, but today we learn about the man and his conversion and joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And now, here's Marvin. Well, Marvin, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing great, Richard. Thanks for calling me.
Yeah, how's the weather there? I think you're expecting rain, aren't you?
It's raining right now.
Oh, it's raining right now. Okay. We're hoping to get some rain and snow here in the next day or two here in Utah. We really need it. We're having a drought. So every little flake and every little drop of rain is going to be very helpful. Well, Marvin, I am excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you for about 2 years now, and I finally got a hold of you because we have a lot in common, which you will learn about as we go through this. For example, you did a benefit to raise money for the missionaries in Nashville, Tennessee, a number of years ago. You may remember, you may not, because you do a lot of those things. And anyway, my father-in-law, Serge Woodruff, was the mission president.
Okay, now I got it all. Yes.
Yeah, he was the mission president. He just passed away last year. Just a great man. But anyway, yeah, he always remembers that you came and played and helped raise funds for the missionaries. So that's one connection. The other connection is, if the sources are correct, you were born in Israel.
That is not correct.
That is not correct. Okay, where were you born?
Columbus, Ohio. And that Wikipedia got that wrong. I don't know how to even change it.
Okay, yeah, I there's some way to change it, but I don't know how. But we have another connection then, because my first wife was born in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, if we keep going, we're probably related all the way.
Yeah, we probably are. She passed away a number of years ago, and I've since remarried. But yes, I've been to Columbus many times. In fact, actually, she lived just outside of Columbus in Lauraville.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
it was one of that towns that if you blink after the first only stoplight, you miss the whole town.
You're done for sure.
Well, now I'm interested. Did you actually study at Tel Aviv University?
I did.
Okay. Well, that's our connection, because I lived on Einstein Boulevard there at Shalim Vashalosh, 73.
Yeah, I was there.
And Einstein Boulevard runs right into the university.
Yes, I was there in 68, a year after the Six-Day War.
Oh, okay. Well, I was there from 72 to 76. I was with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra.
Oh, cool. What did you pick?
I'm a percussionist, long retired. And I was the xylophonist while I was there. I did studio work for Holiday on Ice, and so I was their xylophonist. But yeah, and then of course I was part of the founding members of the Jerusalem branch, with David Galbraith being the branch president there.
Oh my!
Yeah. Well, now, how did you get from Columbus, Ohio, to Tel Aviv University, other than by plane?
Yeah, it was TWA, and it was we moved to My family moved from Columbus, Ohio in 1959 to get a better climate for my brother who had an asthmatic condition. And so we moved to Fort Lauderdale. And then in Fort Lauderdale, upon graduation from high school, I was approached through the synagogue to consider being a Friends of Tel Aviv University, and basically handpicked by a congregation in Miami to go study for a year and a half, all on the dime of Israel. The flight, the accommodations, the food, the everything for a whole year and a half.
Wow. And were the classes conducted in Hebrew, or was it all in English?
They were in Hebrew.
In Hebrew. Well, that's the quickest way to learn a language.
Yeah, I took it's called an ulpan.
Yes.
And that didn't help much.
It didn't help much, huh? Well,
really?
My wife had a extreme talent at languages, and so she studied privately, and before you know it, she had an Israeli accent. When she was on the phone, people didn't know if she was an Israeli or not, and she was absolutely fluent. And then my oldest daughter, she was, I think, 5 or 6 when she started going to school there, and after 6 months, she was fluent in Hebrew.
It's not easy. It's not an easy language.
No, it's not. Well, that is our connections there, other than Dan Rona.
I do.
And Dan Rona, when he first came to Israel, stayed, I think he told me he stayed 2 weeks with us until he found a place, until his wife could come over. So I know Dan Rona quite well. In fact, I interviewed him for my podcast
it was
3 months ago.
1959.
So that's our other connections that we have, other than I have a degree in music as well as you.
My mom and I had
we both have
somehow
played professionally.
Gone to the bank to make her a deposit.
When did you first start getting interested in music?
On the desk there at the bank, on the teller's desk, was a box that said, "Sign up for free accordion lessons." And so I said, "Can we do that?" And she said, "I guess so. It's free, right?" So I signed up. I won, but basically everybody won because everybody had to rent an accordion.
Oh, okay. So it was a great marketing theme.
It was. And then 6 months later, I played a concert at the Miami Beach Auditorium.
Oh, wow. Well, we have something else in common. I don't know if even my family members know. I was a young boy and started off an accordion.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you know. You might know this. You probably should know this. That the accordion, the way it's set up on the, other than a concertina with buttons on both sides, where it's just the buttons on the left side, are the chords, contrabass, bass, major, minor, seventh, diminished chords, which trains the ear completely about what these different things sound like. And so transitioning to the piano was quite easy, and also understanding music theory became quite easy after having played the accordion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, those keys on the side, just put that chord in there for you, and you get to understand the relationship between a dominant and tonic and everything. So, yeah, no, it really helps. Well, I've always enjoyed your playing. I can't remember when the first time I heard. I have to say, my experience in playing, especially in Israel with the Philharmonic, Russian violinists would come in, immigrate, extremely talented, just absolutely phenomenal players. And I learned after a while, after doing studio work and working, I played with I did some sub work for the Los Angeles Symphony when I got back and things. I just learned that there are really good musicians and then there are great musicians. And I'm in the category of a good musician. I had to work real hard to get to where I got. And in fact, in junior high school, my band teacher actually told right in front of the whole band that I should just give up. And I was in the drum section. And I always wanted to go back to him and say, I've recorded professionally as a studio musician, and I was with one of the top 10 orchestras in the world. Yeah, but I never did. But anyway, I just worked hard at what I did, and I became known as a real great technician. In fact, my teacher in Los Angeles, he was a member of the L.A. Philharmonic. He later became a mentor and then a very good friend. And at one point he said, he was comparing me with another student of his. We were his two top students. And he said, you are one of the top technicians I've ever seen in my life. He said, and then he mentioned the other young man, and he said, but he plays with feeling.
The other guy does?
Yeah, the other guy plays with feeling, and I was the great technician. And technically, I was flawless. And then later, many years later, we're back in the States, and my youngest daughter and wife wanted to take piano lessons, and so I got them the best teacher in Los Angeles I knew, Mary Gray. She was an accompanist and organist at some church. But anyway, she had the unique ability as accompanist to bring out the soloist. She just knew how to make that soloist look good. And so they went to study with her, and they'd come home each week almost in tears. In fact, the youngest daughter was in tears once. She's so mean. And I said, this sweet Mary Gray, she's such a soft-spoken lady. What are you talking about? Well, I decided I wanted to go back and start taking some piano lessons. So I called her up, and I said, Mary, I want to take some lessons from you too. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let me put together a Bach invention, and then we'll go from there. And she says, okay, sounds great. So a week later, I go and I play the invention, and I get done, and there's total silence. And then she looks at me and she says, okay, now let's see if we can make that some music.
Oh, gosh.
So I understand why she sent them home crying. But anyway, what she was saying, technically, every note was there, the rhythm, everything was perfect, but let's make some music with it. And what leads me to you with this is when I listen to your music, I feel like you put your very soul on those keys. You have a way of really touching the soul. And so I really appreciate it. I really enjoy your music. And as you know, I used one of your songs for my entry on on my podcast that you gave me permission years ago to do. And you just have that talent of really relaying. I don't know how else to put it, but I just feel the very soul of you when you're playing.
That's very, very kind.
And I took the time going over some things. Thurl Bailey, and he's got a great voice. I listened last night to Because I've Been Given Much, and I just wanted to hear it again and again. It was great. And then I didn't know you played with Billy Dean.
Yeah, he and I are very close friends, and toured with him out west, 23 cities and different things. And yeah, he and I are very close friends. And,
yeah. Well, just for people to know, you have, how many recordings have you done?
I'm not really sure. I think overall, if you count people that I've worked, that have hired me to do some of theirs or whatever, probably 55.
Okay. And we're about the same age. Are you still performing?
Oh, I'm performing anywhere I can. Yeah.
Okay.
71.
Okay. Very good. Well, what about your family? How many children do you have?
I got one boy and 3 grandchildren and a wife.
And a wife.
Yeah,
And how long you been married?
let's see, that would be 48 years.
48 years. So what, you planning something special for the 50th?
Yeah, maybe I'll just stay home one night.
Well, now, you say you play as much as you can. Do you still travel a lot? I know you've been throughout the world.
Well, in the last 2 years have been absolutely dead because everywhere that had been scheduled was canceled.
Yeah.
We know why, but so I'm still working on going and doing because I'm still at the top of the game still.
Well, that is great. That is great. And like I said, you've got a great talent there, and I think you've probably hit most of the major concert halls, haven't you?
Well, I don't know. Now, I don't know if you know this. My degree is not on the piano,
That is correct. It is on
the French horn.
the French horn.
Correct.
Yes.
So as far as concert halls go, I've played in way more concert halls on the horn than I have on the piano. But
Oh,
then, so I played with a Munich Philharmonic in an event over in Germany. I played with the Israeli orchestra at one point when I was over there, just briefly.
now
And
was that the symphony or the orchestra?
orchestra,
Was it the one in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv?
Tel Aviv,
Tel Aviv. Okay, that's who I worked for.
and then just briefly, and then I played at the Sydney Opera House on the French horn, which is amazing, just amazing to play there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the one concert hall I haven't been to.
yeah, that was unreal. But I played there were 4,000 people there, and I played with a winds orchestra from Florida State University, and I was first chair horn, and I'm still in it. I'm still in the orchestra.
Really? Which one now?
It's called the Tallahassee Winds Orchestra,
Okay.
made up of retired and or even active teachers, but no students. No students, just people that are needed that desire to play, that are still able to play, that are once they get out of the thick of it, then they don't want to give it up for the rest of their life. So they find their way back into this winds orchestra, which we do some really amazing material. This year we may still be going, or I'm sorry, next year we're going to go to Chicago. It's called, I can't remember the name of the event, but it's the premier wind orchestra event that I believe we're being invited to highlight
Oh,
there.
very nice. Wow. Well, now you're also a composer.
Well, I would not actually say that.
Would you say an arranger?
Arranger, yes. Composition, I can arrange quite well and come up with all kinds of unique things, and but yet at the same time, composing just always reverts me back to just whatever I already know. I just don't ever feel like I ever do anything that's new. I think I just keep repeating what I already know how to do,
Ah,
if that makes any sense.
yeah. Well, your arrangements of a lot of the LDS hymns are really great. I'm a composer myself. Most people don't know that, and my works all had to do with percussion ensembles. But a lot of my work was favorite compositions at the college level, and so I haven't gotten any royalties on that for a few years. I think my last royalty after 30 years was something like $5. But it used to be a very popular two or three popular works for percussion ensembles. So, well, I do know that you said that you were raised in the Jewish faith. Now, were your parents really observant, or what was the
No,
situation at home?
not really. They call reform Jews. Just basically, let's do Hanukkah and let's have, and then let's go to High Holy Days, whatever, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, and that's about it. And then thank you very much. And we're not religious, really.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And
we're like 90 something percent of them are not.
well, according to my research, obviously in 1985 you converted to the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints.
I think that sounds right.
Okay, and it says that you were involved with Robert Millet. How did that happen?
He was in 1980. He was a bishop in Tallahassee,
Oh, I
and
did.
so he also then was able. He was from Baton Rouge, and then he was called to be here at the Institute. and he taught my wife and reluctantly me. And so reluctantly, I mean for real, because I only went there because she wanted
Oh,
to go.
okay.
And so he was asked. He asked my wife asked him to baptize her, and he said only with your husband's permission.
Oh, back those days. Okay.
Correct.
And so, what did you say?
I said it's fine with me. She seems quite happy.
Yeah. Well, now, was she from the Jewish faith, or?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
No, Presbyterian.
Presbyterian. All right. So she joined the church, and how long did it take you to?
About 4 more years.
4 more years. And how did that come about? Did you start? Did you attend services with her, or what? What happened?
Yeah, I went to some services with her, but it was the one of well, the hard part was trying to believe that you could actually hear and feel something during prayer, that actually something's going you're going to learn anything.
Uh,
Uh, just kind of like, yeah, that's good and feels good, but is this anything real about this? And so then at one point, Hartman Rector Jr. had come to a state conference, and he was speaking, and then also he always would pick out a piece of music. I wasn't a member. I sat in the back, about 1,500 people, and he started to sing a song called "I Heard Him Come," and I looked around and I was watching all these people while he was singing, and his singing abilities were almost zero. And I looked around, but I saw people with tears in their eyes, and I'm going, "What's up with this?" And all of a sudden, I found out that a non-singer could deliver a sacred message, and that the people would feel things that they perhaps had never felt before. And they were feeling, and he sings that and recites that everywhere he goes. He keeps it in his briefcase. And so that song triggered me to call and figure out who is this composer that would write a song like this that would cause somebody that can't sing to turn people's lives around in a positive way. So anyway, I called, and Jeff Goodrich answered the phone, and we became good and close friends over the years. And then he told me he wrote it as a challenge in seminary when he was 16 or 17 years old. And the instructor had said, "Jeff, you play a guitar. Can you write a song for the class, something, and bring it to us?" He said, "Okay." So he comes back, and if you know anything about the song, it's quite deep depth to it. And so he, through the music, caused me to figure out that there's something real about all this. And then after another, who knows how many missionaries would come visit, um, I had been invited to listen to a cassette that was recorded by Cleon Skousen about the return of the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. It was entitled. So I listened to that, and I was by myself. I promised him I'd listen to it. It was about 4 years after my wife had joined. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to get these really big feelings as he's talking about Revelation 11, that he will come through the gate beautiful, and he will be, as he said, dressed in red, or his garments will be stained. And so that was, of course, would bleed from every pore. And so I listened, and I started feeling things, and I said, "Oh no, this is not going to help me at all. This is not going to be good because this is all true." So anyway, after a while, missionaries would come over, yet still months had passed. And the missionary would come by, and he looked at me. His name was Wade Bigler. And Elder Bigler looked at me, and he said, "Marvin, for whatever reason, I know that you know this is all true. But your countenance has changed since I've met you. And I went, He said, would you care to be baptized? And then I went, that'll be fine. And then after I picked him up off the floor, he said, really? I said, yeah, really. And so we did it, and about 200 people came to the baptism on June the 2nd, 1985. 200 people, and almost all 190 of them non-members came to my baptism to see what in the heck is he doing. He's a well-known musician. You're hearing the Bible Belt. You're around Baptist galore and everybody else. And what is he doing? And so this really good Baptist man came up to me after the baptism, a friend of mine. He said, Marvin, and this is who I at least would have expected would come up to say anything to me, or even expected to ever come to this thing. And he said, I am so proud that you have accepted Christ into your life. That right there told me that I've done the right thing. So, and so now 30-something years have passed. So now I've been in the church longer than I've been Jewish only.
Well, now what positions have you held in the church?
And I was upright for a long time. And then I was laying down for most of it. No, I'm just kidding. I was, my first calling was primary pianist. And I would have them completely unwound. When those songs said energy.
Well, what did you start adding your personal touch to them?
To everything, yes. Yeah, I did. And they went, oh, this is fun. Let's do another one. And then the bishop would come in, look in the room, and go, my goodness, what's going on in here? And so I said, let's keep this going. So I would travel all over the world, find a primary, no matter where I was, and ask if I could address them and perform for them everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And so I did. And then, I've been hundreds and hundreds of places. And, but the whole thing is, it's curious to be a professional musician as a member of the church, because you have no support ever from any of them. I mean, with regard to anything, it's like it's not like you're, what I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's like there's no endorsement of anybody, of their talent. It's just expected to then, and in the right way, is to give it back for the building of the kingdom. It's not something to be famous at.
Yes.
In the world. So. Anyway.
Well, I know you did, if I remember seriously right, you did an album of children's songs, of the primary songs, didn't you? With some arrangements?
Yeah. That one's got about almost, I think, 750,000 already of people listening to it right now.
Wow.
Even 25, 30 years later.
Yeah, well, I think they're great pieces, and as I said before, you just have a way of putting your soul into it, and it really sends a very spiritual message. Well, what other positions have you held other than pianist and primary?
I was a counselor in a bishopric of a singles ward. I was, and oddly enough, the bishop was German. I'm Jewish, and the second counselor was a McConkey. And we were absolutely nutcases around each other. Just like Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
You hardly heard him.
Yeah, you mentioned McConkey. This was years ago. In fact, I was still, I think, a student at the university, a music student, and but I was married, and we had somebody that came into the ward. He was probably about 10 years older than me, maybe 15. But he not only brought us scriptures, but he always brought Mormon doctrine with him. And then while in Sunday school class, he'd open up and say, well, now McConkey said, And I always kind of wondered, shouldn't the scriptures be more important than Mormon doctrine? But anyway, he was a McConkeyite.
Of course. But anyway, he got long, and he married, this McConkey married a Flora Benson Parker,
Oh.
who was President Benson's granddaughter. Anyway,
Well, those were interesting bishopric meetings then.
yes, very much so. And we had an incidence then of about 90% of the entire ward had serious morality in problems.
Oh, wow.
All of them.
Wow.
And we had our work cut out.
Yeah,
Well,
you sure did.
The bishop didn't believe in doing anything with them. I didn't. He overruled us, but I could see where he was coming from. But yet, you got to intervene at some point, maybe sometime.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, now you traveled a lot. How did you fulfill your church callings and travel so much?
Well, then I was in the High Council, and I said to the stake president, I said, President, I'm being called to go play the piano all over the place. And what's more important, that I have this calling or that I do? He said, you're released now. Because most people can't do anything near what you can do.
Yes.
So he just go ahead and you are released. Have a, just don't worry about a thing. Just keep accepting those invitations.
Yes.
And then I had I was set apart by one of the apostles in a meeting in 1989, Marvin J. Ashton. I was invited to play for a missionary conference of some sort. Elder Holland invited me. He was speaking in Tallahassee. He said, Brother Goldstein, will you come over to Jacksonville and play for our Monday night family home evening at our training session? I went, sure. So I went up, about 200 people there, having dinner and everything else. And so the big speaker was Marvin J. Ashton, and I had never met him. I knew who it was, but after I played about 15 or 20 minutes, he stopped the meeting and said, in front of all these people, and said, Brother Goldstein, I need you to come forward now. The Lord has asked me to set you apart now. I went, exactly. So I went up there, and he said, as I chair the gift of music with those that will come listen, I will be blessed in everything I do, in all ways and at all times. Through the holy apostleship of the Lord Jesus Christ, I seal this unto you. Anyway, and so from that point forward, I would have to be real careful what I said to people, because a lot of people wouldn't even believe that happened.
Wow, that is
but
really
I would be
something.
bold and say, they'd say, why are you calling? And I said, because I am impressed to call you to come there. They said, well, can you explain a little more about what you're talking about? And I would explain it. And I said, well, I hesitate to refer you to my counselor, and his name's Marvin J. Ashton. and then they would call him his desk, and he would say, they say, you help Brother Goldstein accomplish his mission.
Wow. So you actually have a lifetime calling. Yes. I guess that's kind of, I can't say if I'm serving a mission in the priesthood family department. I'm one of the experts on the gospel library, and I have a worldwide calling. It's not area wise. And the first thing they said, this is an indefinite mission.
Oh.
And I said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, we'll release you if we ever want to. So got something in common there. Well, wow. Now I want to turn to the scriptures. How do you study the scriptures?
Not enough. But I I basically just follow some of the lesson plan from our quorums, and other than that, I do try to understand a lot of the Torah as it applies to the to our writings, especially what's called Masoretic text, and it's the text that was written
Mm-hmm.
uh, basically, in my opinion, to clarify why Christ isn't the Savior. It's like it's try to negate everything that was in
Right.
everything that was in Isaiah, and it's trying to say,
Yes.
here's the text that we need to follow, and they would all go back and forth and figure out how do we address this, how do we address that, and it's kind of difficult to follow because it's just not the Greek translation to Hebrew in any way.
Right. Correct. Yes. And so you do the come follow me and the priesthood lesson.
I try. I don't
Do
do
you,
well with it,
yeah,
to be quite honest. I do as much as I can.
yeah. Well, since I'm responsible for the gospel library, do you use the gospel
Yeah.
library? Okay. And in what
You
way do you
mean like
use it?
on my phone? Well, just
Yeah, on your
look up
phone.
everything that I need to look up, and when I need to look it up, and then
Okay.
I mean, I don't have actually an organized plan of how to use it. I just have it available.
Oh, okay. I think you fall in with most members of the church. So you don't use tagging or you don't make notes or cross
No.
referencing or anything. Okay. All right. Well, if you ever want a private lesson, we'll hook up with Zoom and I'll give you the lesson on how to tag and make notes. And in fact, we have a recent quote from Elder Rasband that he records his revelations in the Gospel Library. So it's a great app to use to make notes. And in fact, I just got done teaching a class to senior missionaries here in our area, and show them how to make notes and how powerful they can be.
Well,
Very
at some
good.
point, if I fail to tell you this, maybe on a subsequent trip out there, my singer and I that I work with, she's in Phoenix area, would love to do some kind of a fireside for your group at some point.
Well, I'm willing to do it. We do them by Zoom. I've done them in Arizona, and it all depends how far I have to travel. If not, we do it with Zoom. And you don't know, but I've spoken at BY Education Week for a few years on this subject, and I actually wrote a
Oh
book
yeah,
on it.
yeah.
And so,
Education Week since '92, I think.
yeah, yeah, because you've participated in Education Week. You were
Oh
a
yeah, for the
presenter.
last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, well, I've enjoyed the time with you. It's like I said, I just like talking to another musician. You have a little bit different view of life as far as music and everything. And in fact, I've just started taking organ lessons with Neil Harmon back over in BYU. I've been one of the four ward organists. Don't know why they asked me to do it, because I think my original organ teacher would be rolling over in her grave right now. But anyway, I decided I've got to get back in because I'm really having trouble doing legato on the organ and things. So it's like I'm back in school and I just enjoy it. There's something about studying an instrument
Yeah.
that really is just. I told my wife I go to the chapel to practice. I have a electronic keyboard here where I can practice the fingering and work all that out. But the pedals and everything, I go to the church, and I said I I'm there 2 hours and it seems like I was there 30
Oh
minutes.
yeah, you absorb it, and it's wonderful, and it's great. And
Yeah,
organ.
it is. You
Oh,
just and I remember as a student I used to practice. I guess on average of 5 hours a day. And I'd be in that practice room and with all the instruments and practicing and working. And actually, I was going to be a music teacher, so mine's in music education. But my junior year, I decided, no, I want to play professionally. So I did jazz and rock and everything, but I wanted to be a symphonic percussionist, so that's where I ended up. Have you had people converted to the church because of your music?
Absolutely. According to letters I've received, multiple letters, testimonies in person, even at firesides at the church, to come up and say, I've never felt like I feel right now. And I know I'm going to join your church. And I say, well, honestly, it's not my church, but I am a member of it. And anyway, yes, I could say way more than I'll ever know. Yes, is the answer.
Well, I appreciate your time and the time with you. And I always end my podcast with asking my guests if they would simply bear their testimony.
Oh, absolutely. I am a really happy convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. June 2nd, 1985 was the day I joined, but actually it was quite a bit before that. I would say I was a member of the church way before I was born. According to Elder Maxwell, in a private meeting with myself, he explained in detail how I practiced before I even arrived on earth. And that was a magnificent way to just kind of promote me, just keep it going, and regardless of what happens or who does what, just never go back the wrong way and keep it going. Anyway, so I know that Christ is the Savior without any question whatsoever. I've got other instances I could give, which I do in testimony, in the fireside kind of things, where things just happen and you just absolutely know in the fiber of your being that these things are true. And even contemplating giving a testimony creates the same feeling. But I know the church is the right place to be. I know that everybody will have an opportunity to get there at some point. I always know that I can only do so much, and my part's the music part, and I'm happy to do it, and I'm really happy to talk to you.